of you will recognize some of those, you know, because they are very famous, and you should be able to recognize some. I have that clicker there. You can see some of the drawings here that depicting some of the typical classical kind of worship places. And you can see a church, you can see a mosque, you can see a Hindu temple, synagogue. You know, that's the kind of the designs. That's just one of the pictures I like. The churches started to be being built sometimes in the 4th century, if you remember. Until then, you know, a lot of the churches were held in homes, in houses, and the Christians were meeting in some of even the Jewish homes. Only up to the 4th century they started to develop and to build churches. A lot of them are in Turkey today. You can find a lot of the ruins there, and it's amazing if you can go and visit Ephesus and other places. You can see some of the early churches that they were built. There are distinct differences in architecture between the Western and the Eastern kind of churches, you know. And you know that, well, we have the Catholic Church is more on the west side, and then you have the Orthodox on the east side. One of the most famous church, and one of the nicest and one of the biggest, is the St. Paul Cathedral in London. And it's a Baroque setting that I don't know how many of you have been and visited the cathedral. It's impressive, it's amazing. The design and inside, it blows you away. This is some of the inside of the church, you know, which is really, it's decorated, and I can just imagine the work and the time it took for the workmen to finish it. This is another amazing church. It's St. Basil Cathedral in Russia. And amazing that it was built in the 15th century by Ivan the Terrible. And it looks like really like a castle from a fairy tale. It's something that's amazing. And when you go inside, you're going to see some paintings everywhere, cover the wall inside and the side, and a lot of gold-laid kind of decorations. It's impressive. And of course, you're going to recognize this one. This is one of my favorite cathedrals. Since I lived 2 years in Paris, every Sunday I was there at 6 o'clock because they had an organ concert, a free organ concert. And when you are 25 years old, free sounds very good. But the music was also amazing. And unfortunately, as you know, it had the fire, and they destroyed the spire, and a lot of the church was damaged, being closed. The good news is that after $1.2 billion later, this year in December, they're going to reopen the cathedral. And the spire was actually fixed, replaced. And the biggest challenge they had is to find the timber, like the original one, to make all the support beams. So this is a view from the inside before the fire. Next one would be another amazing cathedral, which is in Florence. It It took about 100 years to build this. And the dome is about 10-story high and weighs more than 40,000 tons. And look inside. All the arches, all the columns, all the work, it's just, and the floor, it's unbelievable, the granite and the decoration, the detail. I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with the next cathedral, which is really a unique masterpiece. Yep. Have you been to Barcelona? If you've been to Barcelona, I'm sure you had to stop by Sagrada Familia, which Antoni Gaudi, the famous architect, designed it. And it was actually started back in 1882. And today, they're still adding to it. The guy said that, well, God has plenty of time, so we don't have to put an end date of the construction. So he's continuing that. And he's right, God has all the time in the world. But look inside, look at this one. It is, I don't know if you've been there, but I was just amazed. I was in awe, I couldn't see anything. It's just wow, 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 everywhere. The light and the structure, the way it's decorated inside, it's something out of this world. You feel like in a sci-fi movies, out of this planet, you know. It's fantastic. Another cathedral that one of my favorites is Mont Saint-Michel Abbey, which is in France, in Normandy. And it is on an island, which actually, if the flux or reflux, you can walk from the shore to the island, except when the water comes back, then you can't walk, you might have to take a boat. It's very interesting. It's amazing how these places were built and where the people picked them to worship God. This was built in 1523. So if you think about how many years ago, with the technology they had and what they were able to accomplish, it's just unbelievable. This is one of the pictures inside the abbey. It's like a whole town when you go on that little island. Another amazing, amazing church is, and only 17 of them they were preserved. They're in Norway. So if you go on the fjords of Norway, and you're going to be able to go and see some of these places, some of the churches. And it looks like out of the Viking design book. It's built somewhere in the 11th century. And they are very well preserved, considering that they are made out of wood, all wood. And some of them, as an engineer, I was totally blown away. They're built with no nails. So the way they put them together and the structure, they have no nails. So I'll show you an inside of this church, which is in Borgundstad in Norway. This is the inside of the beams, the wooden beams, the way they put together. The only danger for them is the fire, and that's why many of them were destroyed by fire. But 17 are still existing in Norway. So if you take a cruise on the fjords, you're going to stop and see some of these churches. This one is the only church on this list that I haven't visited, but since we have so many members here from this place, I said, well, I should show it. Maybe you recognize it. San Andres Secul Church in Guatemala. I don't see anybody from Guatemala here. No, I don't see them. They're not here. But I was impressed by the design and the paintings on the front, on the facade of the church. And this is the inside, which is also extremely decorated, very, very nice. This was built in 1900, and it's a Baroque style. Fascinating mix of local and colonial influences in the design. Another church that I loved and I used to go very often there when I lived in Paris is this one. Because if you go and you take the cable car, if you're lazy to walk, but I used to walk, all the way to Montmartre, there you're going to see Sacré-Cœur, and from there you have an unbelievable view of Paris. I don't think you can get a better view unless you go on the top of Eiffel Tower. But you can walk all the stairs all the way on the top of there, and then you can see the fantastic panorama of the city. It was built in 1914 and has some Byzantine architecture. And I'll show you a picture of inside. It's really amazing. And for those that spend time in Milano, Duomo di Milano, which is another fantastic cathedral, and it took 600 years to complete. So talking about patience and dedication for those guys. Job security. It's one of the largest churches in the world, and it's massive Gothic architecture. And you can see inside, again, a lot of stained glass, a lot of artworks. It's impressive. And another fascinating church, used to be church, now it's a mosque, is Hagia Sophia. It's in Istanbul. So if you take a cruise to Turkey, you're definitely going to stop in Istanbul, and this is one place that you cannot miss. It was built in 537 AD, and it was by Emperor Justinian. It was an Orthodox cathedral, and unfortunately now it was transformed into a mosque since the new president of Turkey is trying to raise a lot of the Islam and get popularity among the voters there. I walked through it and it was breathtaking. Look. It was the original, plus they added a lot of decoration from the mosque. Another interesting place, if you ever have a chance to go, is Iceland. It's a small little island there, which is amazing when it comes from all the things that they offer. And they have one of the very interesting modern and new designs of a church, and it was built in 1945 to 1986. And it was named after the Icelandic poet Hallgrímur Pétursson. And there's also a statue of an explorer in front of the church. It's an interesting concept, design, and interior is like very, very simple, but it's by the height of the ceilings and the columns, it's really one impressive, and it gives you a feeling of closeness to God. You know, you just you're amazed and impressed. And the boss of the Catholic Church today lives here. There's the St. Peter Basilica in Rome, so today is Vatican, and it's built from the 1506 to 1626. And inside it's like an art museum. If you remember the Pietà of Michelangelo's there, and many other artworks, and also the tomb of Peter. This is where the tomb is, and above it, and you can see the decoration, the columns, and the paintings, statues. It's amazing. It's a real museum. Unfortunately, today it takes a long time to get a ticket to get inside. You have to queue up. I have another picture of it, because it's really, you have to show more. And it doesn't do it justice because there are so many more things to see in this place. I don't want to leave the U.S. out, so here it is, St. Patrick Cathedral in New York. It's one of the nice cathedrals in our country. And I like the way the picture was taken, that, you know, it's, you can see the old, and then you can see the nice modern buildings on both sides. And inside it's impressive as well. You know, you can see the height and you can see the design. It's the stained glass there on the nice blue reflection. It's fantastic. Even though I like cathedrals and churches, I'm always impressed by some other places of worship that belong to the other religions. And, you know, if you heard of Angkor Wat in Cambodia, this is one place that, you know, it's like a whole mini city there. It was completed in 1967, so it's more than 1,000 years old. And it's really, really something. I took this picture, beautiful. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they said you have to be there so you can have that light, you know. And I thought I'm going to be among very few people. There must have been at least 1,000 that are pushing you around. Yeah. This is one of the areas of the Angkor Wat, you know, that has a lot of the design. It's all in red stone. And 3 weeks ago, we were in Japan. So, of course, we had to go to Kyoto. And this is the Buddhist temple, Kinkakuji, which is the Golden Pavilion. It's one of the most beautiful temples that I have seen, you know. And it's all gold-plated, real gold, you know. So today you cannot go inside anymore, unless you are a dignitary from a foreign country. But it's something that's fantastic. I also